Hello YouTubers, Rob here. I'm going to talk to you about this fish pump. This is a cheap recirculating fish pump I use for my brew-in-a-bucket method. It's failed me a few times in the past. I've made some modifications. I want to share those with you. I'll try and be as brief as I can. It's a bit boring, but you know, this has worked wonders, and now it's very, very reliable. So yeah, let me just explain very quickly for those who've not seen this before. This is my setup. So you've got a buffalo boiler with a tap on it. It's simply a T-urn converted. I've got a splatter screen from IKEA, which I punched some holes into. I've got a silicone down dip tube, which I just screw into place on the thread and pop through the hole for the pickup. Okay, and that picks it up from below there. So now all the water's being filtered through that first filter thing there. Okay, from here, this is where I mash. So this is my boiler, but actually it starts off life as a mash. So I use the bucket. This bucket's got legs, stainless steel, everything's stainless steel, and it's got a 1000 micron mesh filter at the bottom there. So you put your bucket in and it will stand above the dip tube and all that good stuff. And now we've got the fish pump. So what we'd do normally is we'd mash in, we'd put the fish pump down the side here and the tube in the top. Okay, like so. So that's going to suck it all the way out from the bottom and pump it in through the top. And we use this, which is a very, very, I wouldn't say it's cheap actually. These are quite hard to find. I got this one from, I think it was eBay in the end. It's a silicone splatter screen, I think, for a frying pan. It's got lovely holes pre-drilled into it and these handles which are bent up to make it fit. And that just sits perfectly inside the bucket on top of the grain bed and allows that kind of water distribution. Works really, really well. I'm dead happy with it. It also then sits in my boil if I ever use a bag as well, just for double filtration. I put it just away down the bag because it can take superheat that, and it's sturdy as. So yeah, that's how it basically works. But today I'm talking about the pump more than I am the system. Just put it into context for you. So let me just sit down here and give myself something to sit on. Right. So here is the pump. Now, what I found with this pump is historically it's fallen apart. Sometimes the pieces warp. Is it focusing properly? So I've got no flash. Focus, you focus. Right, it doesn't want to. So I've soldered it around the seams, okay, to stop the back coming off, as happened with my friend's version. We made his brewery for him in his shed. First brew, the back fell off and ended up, luckily, we've got the filter in the bottom, of course, but if it hadn't been there, it would have burnt onto the element. And then we've also soldered the top. Now, before you solder the top, you want to do two things. First, pop off the top cover. You see, you've got this filter. Here we are. Thank you for finally focusing. I spoke too soon. Right, change the background. Hello, hello. Right, this screen here is the filter screen. It clogs, okay? It can do because you've got lots of bits of small debris, the same debris you're trying to get to the top of the grain bed for filtering, okay? So what you do is you just drill a big hole for it. So pop the cover off, remove the flow control adjuster. You don't need the flow control adjuster, but leave the bit of plastic that helps with the channeling from the impeller up the tube. So there's only two bits of plastic underneath this panel. That's one which is a little piece of plastic that slides, that can come off and be discarded, and then there's another piece that sits next to the impeller, which channels the water. You keep the bit that channels the water, put back everything else, including the case, but make sure you've basically solder melted a big hole in it. Now, you want that because that allows bigger particles through there into the impeller. The impeller doesn't care. It's big enough to handle bits of grain, and it will fire them up this tube, okay? Now, what we've now lost, of course, is the flow control. So it does help if you get a slightly stuck mash in your bucket, or it's not filtering that quickly through. I did a stout the other day that uses like oats and things and slightly thicker mash. So having a flow rate control does help, and you've obviously discarded it, so you need to put another one in. So this is just an inline one, and of course you can set that to the flow rate you fancy. It's very simple. I think that's just a basic. You get those from any homebrew shop. Bit of tubing, jobs are good. And what I've also suggest doing, because it's a pain in the arse, excuse my language, am I allowed to say that? Yes, I am. Pain in the arse. Constantly trying to turn and pull this plug out with wet hands from the power socket, which is rather a terrifying prospect to turn it on and off. You can either put an inline switch in here, which is one thing to do. Makes it a bit more difficult for cleaning it, I guess. So what I've just gone and done is get a switch controller on the wall. So plug it into the wall and then have each socket have its own separate switch. So I can just switch it on and off with a switch. So yeah, that's basically that. Give it a jolly good soldering and it will stay together. It works very well. I've not had a single problem with it since. It's not stalled, it's not failed, it's not sucked up anything it shouldn't do, and nothing's fallen off. So the job's a good one. All right, take care guys, hope that's helped. Bye-bye.